Hello and welcome to the Bio360 podcast. This is the third part of my interview with Roumiana Tsenkova. Hello, Roumiana.
Hi, hello.
Hey. So, we're deeply into the topic, and I'm really thrilled about what we're coming across. And you just mentioned in the second part the effects of sugar on the water. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, so maybe it is better to talk about sugar and salt, and they have absolutely. You can see on the spectra of the water with sugar and with salt how different they are, and it's not only that they're different; they're complementary different. So in Japanese, for example, in Japanese food, they have a expression that we use sugar to underline their salt taste, and vice versa. So if they want to show the sugar taste, they put some salt. So it's exactly, but having salt and sugar at the same time is just to keep the balance in the food. And salt and sugar are influencing water in complementary way. This is number one. And number two, what you asked was, and I was talking about the concentration of sugar in the water. When you have a very low concentrations, like less than 1%, then you see how different concentration of sugar change water structure immensely. So you can use sugar as a tool to restructure water in the way you want. Means in obtaining the function of the water that you want, and the same with salt, but in opposite directions. So it is maybe not easy to comprehend, but
okay, it somehow changes the structure. So if I eat like a ton of Mars bars, is that actually is that beneficial for me in terms of restructuring my water?
No. It is not beneficial for you to eat tons of bars because water stop changing. That was my point. If you have a little bit of sugar, then you can get different water structures when you change this concentration of sugar. But if you eat tons of sugar, water stop changing at all.
So it stops changing.
It stops changing, yes.
Well, that's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. It is scary. But you have to get scared to stop eating so much sugar, right?
Yeah. So that would be like above 1%, you said? Below it's actually just restructuring, and then above it's actually doing harm?
Yes, exactly. And the same with the salt.
Same with the salt? Okay.
Yeah, the same
I
with
use
the
a lot of
salt.
Yes.
No, and this is a tendency recently. I go to restaurants and all the food is becoming more and more salty, and it bothers me because it really doesn't make any good to your water.
Okay, but
it stopped reacting. Yeah.
But you also mentioned when I asked you that question that there is a different quality to sugars. I mean, we're talking about all the spectrum from like heavily refined sugars to what we call here rapadura, which is just like I'm not sure the dried sugar cane, and in salt we talk the same. We have refined salt, and we have like hand dried, hand selected, sun dried sea salt and Himalaya salt and all that kind of stuff. Is that the same? Can we really compare that?
Very good question, because. I wanted to tell you that different salt will have different spectra. So a different salt will curve the water spectrum differently. And so that's why in a way we have just started. I want to see labs that are working on salt and sugar and looking at different sugars and different salts and how they change the water, because they have different minerals, and those different minerals, they are restructuring water in different ways. So you want, for your body, you want to get a certain pattern, a signature of the water that you drink, for example, or the food that you eat, and then you have to know what kind of salt or what kind of sugar you need in order to get this specific pattern of the water restructured in your body. But this is a futuristic kind of talk now, because maybe you will ask me what I want to see in the future. This is one of the things that I want to see.
Okay. Yeah. So one question, a really interesting question for me would be like, can we actually, is that my understanding of biology is that there's almost never like a one-way road. It's everything like goes in both directions, you know?
Yes.
So heavy metals, for example, influence the health of our gut, and then we get inflammation, and the inflammation is not good for, everything works in both directions. So is it possible that we could actually treat the water in our body and thus kind of having beneficial effects on the health of our matter?
Yes. Now, I don't like very much the word treat, because the people are processing the water with electromagnetic fields, with pressure, etc. I have seen such waters. I've taken spectra of such waters. I can see that they change. But I like the natural way of changing the water structure by what we are talking. Water changes by sugar, by minerals, by salt, different proteins, all these natural remedies, if I can say. I mean, a herbal tea can change your water structure amazingly. So, and we can measure this. So you can measure your own water structure, and you can measure your structure before the herbal tea and after you have the herbal tea. So you can play with this. You can know your water structure, and you can know what is the best for you by measuring the effect of eating or drinking, or just you can control yourself by measuring the water in your body. You control the eating, the sleeping regime, and all these things.
Interesting. So if I have a herbal tea, so there's a few substances in there, but these substances actually go into my organism, and when they're present, they structure my water in a different way than without them. So it's not the presence of the whatever is in inside there, the phytonutrients, is not necessarily the thing that is important when it comes to like cellular absorption or anything, but it restructures the water and thus has a systemic effect on my entire body, right?
Exactly. So you need, for example, in order to exchange the water in your cell, you need outside of your cell a water structured in a way that it is easier for water to enter the cell. So, for example, aquaporins, a protein in the water in the cell wall that cut the hydrogen bond of the water out of the cell in order to send very fast, very quickly, single water molecules in the cell in order to have those cells like a Lego, making different structures around the molecules in the cell. So you need a specific quality of this water, intracellular water, that you can get by the tea that you drink, the food that you eat, the sleep that you get, etc. So this is how it works.
Yeah, fascinating, really. So you said you're against, you don't like the word treatment, and so
particularly water treatment,
yeah,
water
and artificial treatments. I was just the thought was popping up, what do you think about there's a lot of pulse electromagnetic fields, microcurrent treatment, and everything like that. So we're attaching machines to our bodies and sending currents through it. What do you think about that? Because there's a lot of also success with these methods.
Okay, so I don't want to get me wrong. I know that people see an effect with some people in some conditions, but with some they don't. And this is at the moment trial and error story, right? So people try. If it works, it works.
Mm-hmm.
But we still do not have explained phenomena, why it works, and we cannot control it for everybody. So what I'm saying, and what is the good about having aquaphotomics, that we have a tool and technology to measure and to make a feedback. So you can, because sometimes it could be very dangerous. Playing with water is not always a safety game.
Mm-hmm.
So it is good to have a measurement device that will tell you if you are in a safe zone or if you are not, and especially if you can understand where is your safety zone.
Yeah, what could potentially happening? How can you tamper with your water in a meaningful way?
Well, we talked about how water behaves when you get too much sugar, too much salt. This is easy to understand. But the same with electromagnetic field. You could have too much processing on the water and too much something that for someone it will be too much. Adding to the water of his or her body, it will be too much. So we don't know. Now but we rely on the body self-regulation. And I would say the safest way is when you move your body and then your water is more flexible and it can face different kinds of perturbations. So this is the good news. The body and the water is the best self-regulator that I've seen. I graduated automation, so the regulation is something very, very important for feedback systems. So.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, on the other hand, nature is providing us with so much, right? I mean, you just go in the forest and you get the green light, So
yes.
The green light is a very important light also for kind of balancing out our health. And we just get that by nature. And then there's the sunlight. We get the infrared light,
Yes.
We need to get into the sun. Like people understand that. Get out of that artificial light we're having, which is also pulsed and with a huge emphasis on blue light, and it's just not the thing that Mother Earth provided to us. We have the Fraunhofer lines in the sun spectrum. This is a light that we are completely adapted to. And it is beneficial for us. I mean, I'm not in excess, of course, but. So and there's so many other terms of natural influences in nature. I mean, we're talking about salt, sugars, whatever, our food, bacteria, whatever. That's actually an interesting point to come to. But nature's providing us with all that and resulting in a very I say in a huge diversity and the balance of the water. Actually, I just mentioned bacteria because we always think of like we have a body and we have a brain and that's us, But we all know we're 90% bacteria or something like that. What's the interaction actually between and then we have like on top of that we have all the mitochondria in our cells, which is like 500 to 2,000 times more than our cells. So how is that interaction between the water and these life forms?
A huge question. Now, just one word about blue and red light, because people are using this blue and red light to produce vegetables. And I think most of the vegetables that we eat sold on the shops are made in artificial plants with blue and red light. One is supporting the growth of the plant. The other one is supporting the mass. The height and the mass of the plant. And they do not provide, the spectra of this plant is not the same as the spectra of a plant grown on earth, in a soil, under the sunlight. So we are reducing the functionality of the food that we eat. So, and we have to be very careful. But all this we can measure. And but at least we have to be aware, the same like with the cell phones. Now, going to bacteria communicates, lives in the societies only because they send signals through the water, and it is all change of charges. It is all charge distribution. It is a proton, so-called proton wire regulation. So we have been working with microorganisms, and we published a paper on probiotic bacteria. We understood the mechanism why probiotic bacteria is so strong. And maybe this explains also how bacteria works in our guts. Actually, the strong bacteria is the one that restructures water, restructures it, makes it more, having more charge, more hydroxylated, I would say, capable of interaction with other molecules. It's not. We use so-called aquagrams. It's a radar kind of graph. When you look at this graph, you could see 12 different water molecular conformations that are directly related to functionality. Each of these 12 bands, 12 energies of water, are related to specific function. And in general, we have these three. We know that the water is like a vapor, liquid water, and ice. But when you look at this aquagram, then you know that the vapor is the working water, the bulk liquid water is the regulator, and the ice is the water battery, the storage of the energy. So all this bacteria is changing this water structure in a way to adapt, to help the organism to adapt to different perturbation like pathogens, disturbances, sicknesses, etc.
Okay, fascinating. By the way, I just had a thought, because when I visited Rasmus, I also visited a guy called Renzo Salani and his wife Nicole. I just forgot her last name. So they're doing mirror kinesiology. So they're using extremely high quality tiny little mirrors and polarized filters, also of exceptional quality, and so light that is kind of leaving the body in a chaotic way, they restructure it in a way and then send it back to the body, and then using kinesiology to actually find out what's going on, and they're having huge success with that. That's and they were talking that they were treating the water with that, and there was an expression for it which I forgot, but there were like certain qualities. That's how I come to that. You said like there's 12 energies of water, so they were mentioning something like that, and that they could, out of a random water, like just tap water, they could just like kind of restructure the water, and all these energies would pop up again, like almost all of them.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very possible. Yes,
yeah, okay.
Polarization of light is bringing different colors. The visible light has much higher energy than infrared and terahertz, etc. It is next to UV, lower than UV, but still high. And with that energy, you can restructure the water. It's possible, but it could. So it would be fascinating to measure the spectrum of the water that they obtain by treating the water with one or other light. We have done this with a laser diode. We have treated the water with red laser diode, and we have seen changes in the water structure. And you know that it's dangerous to point this red laser to eye of a person. The green one is okay. The red is harmful, but it's all related to restructuring the water.
Okay, yeah, I'm already trying to put Rasmus and these guys into contact. Actually, her name is Nicole Pechmann. So they're living quite close to each other. So please go ahead and test that stuff and make pictures out of that. Rasmus can make crystals. You can make
spectra.
Use your spectra. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Because these things are like so much in the woo-woo realm, and it would be just so nice to actually, get science on it and say like, hey, here's happening something, just that you just can't ignore,
Exactly. Yeah, we try with the spectrum. Water is changing all the time. So as Rasmus is making crystals, you have water that never can make a crystal, but you have water that makes crystals, and every time the crystals are different. When we take a spectra is a kind of onion. So you peel out different layers, and there are many layers on the top of each other with different kind of information inside. And we can analyze those spectra with multivariate analysis and lots of mathematics in there. But we can always identify which water it is, even though you have already perturbations on that. I mean, you have small changes of the spectra here and there. But we could identify what is the perturbation and which water it is and what kind of function it has. So there are lots of possibilities. And it is very, very important to have a collaboration and have these projects and start to really understanding and measuring and explaining what is happening.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm really thrilled by our conversation here. Really fascinating stuff. So getting kind of to the end of the interview, I just want to come up with another big question for you, probably. So by exposure to everything, we're changing the waters in our body. And could we see that as an epigenetic factor? And does that actually have effects on our DNA?
Yes. I mean, this is the biggest epigenetic factors I could think of. And definitely the water is working, is changing the DNA. I mean, for me, with so much work in this, I would say the water is the conductor. And so there has been a conversation about proteins and water interaction. Who is the first? That's the chicken egg discussion. Mm-hmm. But water is connected to all molecules and interacting with all other molecules. So actually, the big computer in our body is the water. So there's no doubt that this is the most important epigenetic factor.
Okay, so regarding like how proteins fold, for example, like that is hugely influenced by the quality of the water in our body.
Exactly, yes, and vice versa. The proteins will. So we've published papers on insulin and prion protein, and we've shown that the fibrillation of proteins are caused by the restructuring of the water. So water restructures by external perturbation like salt temperature, and it becomes very hydrophobic, which brings fibrillation of those proteins. So there's no doubt that the water is the one that changes the environment and then changes the way proteins work. And there is also interaction between water inside the protein and water outside of the protein. And this is how the conducting is explained. I mean, and how the protein, the function is controlled.
Okay. How important then is the water we drink? Is that playing like a major role, or is it just, I mean, of course it will play some role, or is it a tiny role because we are exposed to so many other stimuli?
Very good question. One thing that I know is that everybody knows that drinking water is very important, which is wonderful. I don't think these numbers that we give, drink 2 liters, drink 3 liters, is just wrong. I think that we need, the quantity of the water that we need to drink is very individual. And we have to feel it, and we have to follow our needs, but also we have to force, because sometimes we get so involved in our cell phones and in the work we do, and we forget drinking the water, and this is not good. But also, I know that the time when we will choose our waters is coming, because I know also that it's not good to drink always the same water, like there are people that always drink that particular mineral water. Well, I came to Austria and Germany and like so much the water here, not the mineral, just it's very nice, very good water. So, but it is important. It is important, but also the water that we get in our bodies through plants and meat, this is cellular water, which is also, as structure, is very important for our bodies. So, both.
Yeah, so both is important. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
watch out the water you drink. I try to only drink spring water, and actually Rasmus wants to. We have like 2 wonderful springs here. One is the one that I usually go, which has a really good water, and we even tested it chemically. I was sure it was good, but a friend of mine, he did that job and he did that project, and we collected money for it. And the other one is like a little bit of a holy spring, so people come and pray there. And Rasmus is going at some point to, once I sent him the water, actually, he's going to make some crystals of that. So water quality is interesting. So it's actually, if we just filter water and going through reverse osmosis, is that like that water that actually does harm to us?
I don't know that water. I cannot say.
Just a classic reverse osmosis filter, that.
I don't. Well, filtering water is restructuring the water per se. I mean, when you just filter the water, you already change the structure of the water. But of course, this only I can say. I don't know the water, and I don't know after the filter how is this water is structured. But if I take the spectra and I can tell how this water has changed. So we can measure, and we can produce an aquagram that will express and show right away how water looks like as a pattern.
Okay. Yeah. I always trust nature more than man. To be
exactly.
honest.
Absolutely. Yes. Nature always regulates, and there is no harmful natural water for sure, except if you have, because now we polluted all the nature. So this is something that we have to be careful with.
Yeah, that's a huge caveat. We're doing a lot of harm to this planet, and so it's hard to find actually water that is not contaminated. So we might need the use of filters and then maybe revitalization, stuff like that. Okay.
Well, but the good news is now that we can measure, we can measure bacteria in water just by how bacteria restructures the water, even below 100 CFU. Very low number of bacteria in water we can we can detect with the spectral pattern of the water. So, and when we talked earlier about water quality, this is what we can do. We can monitor the spectral pattern of the water, and we can tell if the water is contaminated or not. And this is something that has to be used because, I mean, there is so good water that if we say, oh, the water is contaminated, that we've got a problem. We have to drink this good water that we still have. But on the other side, we have to really control and measure the water to be sure that we are drinking the right one.
Okay. So maybe a final question for you.
Yeah.
What's moving your heart right now? Like you said, like maybe you're going to ask me, like, what's coming in the future? What are you up to? Like, what is your perspective on the whole topic?
One thing that I want to, and we are working on this already. I want to see. I know that there is a personalized water, a tailor-made water, but the word "made" is not that good. We will be able to choose the water that we need right now in that moment, because, as I said, drinking all the time the same water is not right. Our condition requires certain spectral pattern, a certain water described by spectral pattern that could be measured and could be found. So this is one thing. And another thing is that we have been too ignorant to water in the whole science. And I know that now science is up to discussing the phenomenon of consciousness. We try to understand the black holes. We have to include in the equation the knowledge of water in order to understand phenomena on Earth and in biology. And this is really what is it's so exciting to me, because more knowledge about water will bring new insights. We talk about theory of everything, and string theory, etc. But we cannot have theory of everything if we keep our reductionist approach and thinking of molecules beside water. So water has to be in the equation.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things we got to take into equation that are massively there, and we're just completely ignoring them. You just said like tailor-made water. That is actually what I meant with like when I asked about is it possible, because things are going vice versa, to actually treat the water. I wanted to get to the question like can we actually use, let's say, an external frequency like light, for example, or anything, to just have that tailored light that would shine on our water, and thus changing kind of the structure of the water, and thus changing the matter that surrounds it. That was kind of where I wanted to go to.
Yeah, I think we can do this someday.
Okay.
Yes.
That's going to be amazing. So you can measure it and then just send back what is actually needed.
Exactly.
That sounds like Star Trek.
We'll get there. Yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
Sure.
Roumiana, I have learned a lot about nature today, and in a very broad way, and that was a very enlightening interview for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I love talking about this with wonderful questions and so much information I got also from you and Erasmus. It is a very nice community to work with, and I'm fascinated by what we can do in the future.
Me too. Yes. Where can we find you? Just could you point out to your website?
Yes, we have a website, www.aquaphotomics.com, where you can learn about aquaphotomics. And then I have a website of my lab, which is nirslab.jp, the Japanese website, and also my email, which is Tsenkova @gmail.com. Or my university is rtsen @kobe-u.ac.jp.
All right. So, Roumiana, thank you very much for this enlightening interview. And thanks. Can you relay big thanks to Rasmus, who's sitting next to you? And wish you a wonderful day in Austria and Germany.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. And I hope we can meet in person someday.
Me too. Okay. Goodbye.
Yes.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.